under Viktor's leadership and under President Trump's leadership is the defense of Western civilization, the defense of the idea that children should be able to go to school and get educated and not indoctrinated, the defense of the idea that European and American families should be able to transport themselves and be able to afford to heat and cool their homes, the defense of the idea that we are founded on a certain Christian civilization and Christian values that animate everything from freedom of speech to rule of law to respect for minority rights and protection of the vulnerable. There is so much that unites the United States and Hungary, and unfortunately, there have been too few people who have been willing to stand up for the values of Western civilization. Viktor Orbán is the rare exception that has unfortunately proved the rule. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm here because Viktor is a statesman, and we have seen so much talk in European capitals about the need to end the war in Russia and Ukraine, and we certainly agree with it. The war would have never started if President Trump had been president 4 years ago, but now that it has started, probably the two leaders who have done the most to actually end that destructive conflict have been Donald J. Trump and Viktor Orbán in Hungary, and they've done it through diplomacy, through talking to people, through trying to understand what the Ukrainians and the Russians need to end the war. We're going to continue to participate in that process, but I think that it is a testament to the people of Hungary that you're a country of 10 million people, but I'm telling you, I've sat in all the rooms and I've been on all the phone calls. Your leadership has been a far, far more important and constructive partner for peace than almost anyone anywhere else in the world, and that is a great testament, I think, to the wisdom and the courage of the people of Hungary. And then finally, I just want to say one final observation about this election. What has happened in this country, what has happened in the midst of this election campaign is one of the worst examples of foreign election interference that I've ever seen or ever even read about. The bureaucrats in Brussels have tried to destroy the economy of Hungary. They have tried to make Hungary less energy independent. They have tried to drive up costs for Hungarian consumers, and they've done it all because they hate this guy. But I think that what the people of Hungary, what I would encourage them to do is ask themselves the question, not who's pro or anti-Europe, not who's pro or anti the United States of America, but who is pro-you, who is pro the people of Hungary. In my experience, I've seen a guy who has ferociously advocated for the interests of Hungary. I'm here to help him in this campaign cycle, and yet when I sat down with Viktor, we didn't talk about politics. We talked about Here are 5 things that we need, that the Hungarian people need from the United States in order to further our partnership and in order to achieve prosperity. That's the kind of leadership that is needed. And on everything from digital censorship, why are bureaucrats in Brussels telling social media companies what information they're giving to Hungarian voters? I think the voters of Hungary are adults. They are sovereign in their own country, and they should be able to look at whatever information they would like to about the election without somebody in a faraway capital treating them like children. Sovereignty, democracy are fundamentally about the people choosing. And part of the reason why we're here and part of the reason why the President of the United States sent me here is because that we think the amount of interference that's come from the bureaucracy in Brussels has been truly disgraceful. I won't tell the people of Hungary how to vote. I would encourage the bureaucrats in Brussels to do the exact same thing. So, Viktor, thank you, and it's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a couple of questions. Do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We have time for a couple of questions. The first two goes to the Hungarian side, and then the floor is yours, Mr. Vice President. Az első kérdést a...
So the first question goes to Hungarian television. Csaba. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I would not like to stand up because of the cameras. Thank you. I have 2 questions. One is to Mr. Prime Minister, and the other one is to Mr. Vice President. From the Prime Minister, I would like to ask if they touched upon the possibilities of ending the Russian-Ukrainian war during the negotiations. And from the Vice President, I would like to ask you to comment on the threats of President Zelensky towards Hungary and personally towards Viktor Orbán. Thank you.
Okay. We
did touch upon the Russian-Ukrainian war, which is a painful subject. We're talking about a war waged between 2 Christian countries moreover, in the territory of Europe. So these two sentences actually set out how serious this war is. And I have always really looked up on the President of the United States. I'm talking about the current president, obviously, that from the first moment onward, he regarded these two dimensions as most important. In Europe, two Orthodox, deeply Christian countries are waging a war where tens and hundreds of thousands of people die and become injured for life. This is so terrible that you have to stop it at all costs. And since the United States, prior to President Trump, was in favor of this war, for us, the current position of the United States is indeed very valuable because it is fundamentally pro-peace. So if a Hungarian and a US politician meet, they cannot avoid talking about the Russian-Ukrainian war. Moreover, this war is being waged in the neighborhood of Hungary. Hungarians also die in this war, since in the current territory of Ukraine, multiple Hungarians live who are drafted, occasionally with brutal coercive measures. They are taken to the front where they die. So you cannot avoid talking about the Russian-Ukrainian war during such a meeting, especially so because previously the President of the United States had initiated a peace summit between the US and Russia, and he recommended as a venue for these talks Budapest, the capital of Hungary, which is the perhaps only possible venue in Europe. And Hungary agreed to that. In fact, I must say that up to the level of the technical preparation of this meeting, we negotiated on those with both the President of the United States and the President of Russia, and Hungary remains ready. So that if the US and Russia believe that a peace summit is required between the two of them, then Budapest will be happy to provide itself as a venue for that meeting. And we are available. And that's all I can say to you.
Thank you for your willingness to host. And just to answer your question, so I'm not aware of President Zelensky threatening Viktor Orbán. I know that there have been a lot of people who have threatened Viktor and have frankly not just threatened the people of Hungary, but have actually tried to exact costs on the people of Hungary because